everyone. Welcome to the session to talk about bridging the gap between academia and the workforce. I think I personally found this the most fascinating topic for students because you're super excited to get out of university and to explore the world. And sometimes we may not have that realistic image of what that external world looks like. So I think this session is going to really help you to make sure you're equipped for the world outside of your university. Okay, so we are here with Leanne. My name is Samina. I'm the organizational psychology consultant and researcher. I myself did a lot of research in universities and got into the workforce, and I was shocked with the gap that exists between universities and workforce. And then I dedicated the rest of my career to really bridge that gap. So that's why I'm very excited to meet all of you and have this session with you. And I'm here with my colleague, Leanne Kak. Leanne, I'll let you speak on your own.
Yeah, thanks, Amin. So I'm an organizational psychology consultant and coach. I have been a career coach for over 4 years. And in this time, I've had the pleasure of helping recent graduates and young professionals navigate their career trajectory. As Samin mentioned, when you first graduate, you're super excited. You did all that hard work, and it's kind of overwhelming how many jobs are out there. And it's really important to really sit and think about what is the best pathway for you. So I've had the pleasure of helping students navigate that beginning process for picking their career pathway. And alongside my coaching credentials, I have a master's in sport and performance psychology from Florida State University and a master's in organizational psychology from Smith School of Business, which helps assist me in my coaching services.
All right, so you'll be really in good hands for the next 1 hour and a half. Okay, so a little bit about Jalapeno, just to sort of understand our values, our philosophy. So really, we are a company that merged psychology and technology to help students, people like you, and people in workforce to reach their full potential. And that's why we do have our own software to do that. And we do have a team of consulting, coaching, and counseling. Really, our vision is to provide all the tools and services that humans need to reach their full potential in life. And this is what we are really going above and beyond every day to fulfill. Lastly, we do have some norms for this meeting. So by norms, it means some rules, some behaviors that we would like to see in this session. One is I would like you to be present. Next thing is a safe space. We are not here to judge each other. We are here to listen, to understand, not to judge. And lastly, we're going to be building on each other's ideas. We are not here to evaluate any ideas. We are here to really build on each other's ideas and to really brainstorm about what would look like for me leaving university and getting into workforce. And that is so different for each person. And lastly, no interruptions. No one likes to be interrupted. If you would like to speak, you can either use the Zoom icon to raise your hand, or if you have your camera on physically, you can raise your hand. We'll make sure we notice you. Or you can put it in the chat box. We'll be moderating the chat box. By any chance, if you don't feel comfortable to share your perspective publicly, direct message myself or Leanne, and we will make sure we bring up your point and issues anonymously in the session. All right, so are we ready? If we are ready, can I have like a Zoom icon thumbs up that we are ready to start the session? All right, so here's the project, a scenario that I have for all of you. So make sure you have a pen and paper because you're going to be doing a lot of reflection and writing. So the scenario that I'm going to give you is, imagine one day you come to school and they give you this syllabus. So really, the syllabus, how it looks like is that, you know what, the objective of this course is to optimize supply chain. We really don't know what's going to happen the second week, third week, fourth week. We only know what's happening on the first week, which is we're going to have a kickoff meeting to figure out the plan for the following weeks. So imagine you signed up for a course with such syllabus that you have no idea when the course ends and what's going to be covered throughout the course. Sounds good? So that's the syllabus. And another thing that they were like, you know what, we're going to be assigning you to teams. And in that team, you're going to be working with people that are from different generation. There are people that are 50 years old. They're coming from different culture and different perspectives in terms of the experiences they had in life, both personally and professionally. Like their mindset is different. The work environment they had was very different from yours. And that's going to be the team for you to complete that syllabus. All right. The next thing about this course is that there is no finish line. You don't know this is the last date of this course. You don't know when you are graduating. You just know you have to keep going until you meet that objective, which is optimizing the supply chain, right? But you really don't know when exactly how it will look like to wrap that up. And last thing about this course, no one's gonna evaluate you. So you're not gonna get graded for being A student, B student. You yourself have to evaluate your own performance throughout that course. And you yourself have to figure out, okay, where am I? Am I A, B, C? And how can I get myself to the next level? Sounds good so far? All right, I see some heads nodding. Okay, so what I want you to do, I want all of you to open up another window or on your cell phone. If you can go to menti.com, www.menti.com, and then add this code 17227564. Leanne, am I sharing my Menti slide?
Yes, you're good.
Perfect. Okay, and I want you to show me the thumbs up once you're signed in. All right, thumbs up. And maybe something I actually can do to make it. All right, so the first question is, how might you take ownership of your own learning? Figure out what I need to learn. So really the question is, if we go back to this slide here, the question is, how are you going to figure out to complete, like, how am I going to complete this syllabus? How am I going to figure out what I need to cover in the next following weeks? So that's the question. Okay, so I have a point, taking proactive steps to where I want to be. Whoever put that there, can you elaborate how you're going to take proactive steps? Like what tactics you will be using to make sure you're being proactive about this? Again, you can either speak up or put it in the chat for us or direct message me or Leanne. So what I want... Identify the actions associated with the learning outcomes. Yeah, that's a really good tactic. I like that. To see, okay, what are the outcomes first? Let's just talk about the outcomes and then identify actions.
Reflecting on that syllabus is you really only have one outlined learning outcome. It's to optimize supply chain. So it's interesting of how do you know what learning outcomes then you want to reach? So there's definitely the actions that you want to break down, but what are the building blocks that help you get there? And this is obviously a hypothetical situation. We may not know how to accurately optimize supply chain, but it's really that mentality of breaking down the steps on your own.
Yeah. Good point. For those who just joined us, I was just telling the team, I will appreciate if you can turn your camera on so we can sort of have that humanized conversation in the session. And just to sort of tell you what's happening, if you can go to www.menti.com and add this code, we are doing some sort of activities, and then I'll make sure I repeat myself so you'll be able to answer the question. The first question is, imagine this is the syllabus that you receive at school for one of your courses, which has only one section, and you have to fill out the following weeks. How would you do that?
I love this next response. So first, a preliminary research about what is the supply chain and what does optimizing mean. So really breaking down that first bit of information. Then figure out subparts within the topic and learn about them. Awesome.
Cool. All right. We're going to move on to the next question. The next question is about the team you're going to be working on this project is a very diverse team in terms of they're coming from different generations, different values, different mindset, and different communication style. And you have to be able to sort of find harmony in all these differences to complete that course. So how might you build cohesiveness and a sense of belonging in such diverse team? Listen, this is actually a very good point, because I think that was one of the skills that I myself never actively practiced at school. Like there was not a listening course, but it's such a hard skill to develop that we really listen to understand. We don't listen to judge. We don't listen to criticize. Create a team building exercise.
Yeah, so those icebreakers are a really good opportunity to get to know each other by sharing a little bit of your background, perhaps, or a little bit of your values. A lot of times people make assumptions based off of appearances. And so just being able to give that space to let people share themselves personally, their background or their interests or their culture, et cetera, is so important. And that kind of then the listening component of trying to retain and make sure you take note of what is important to that person. Definitely communication. Respect.
I also again like the point, making sure everyone's opinions are respected. Making sure you hear, like you get everyone's input, and then respecting, even if you disagree with their point.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. The next case about this course, there's no finish line. There is no sort of date that this is the last day of final exam, but you just know that, you know what, it's going to be some ending, but you really don't know how would that look like and when that would that be. Okay, I guess we don't have a question on that. So we talked about this. And the next point is, you're like, we don't even know when the finish point is. We don't really know when our exam time is, but we have to evaluate ourselves. We have to grade our own performance. We have to give ourselves, oh, am I A, B, C? So there is no instructor really to grade you on that. So how might you evaluate yourself and ensure you are continuously growing? Again, think about this. There is no finish line and you will be evaluating yourself. So how would you do that?
Yeah, working on your weaknesses. So gaining awareness of where your areas of improvement are and working on them continuously.
Also, I like the point, figure out some tangible, quantifiable factors to measure your growth. So what is it, like, for example, what skill I want to develop? There are tons of skills that you want to develop, but what skills I should develop and make sure I have measuring factors in place for that?
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
And it also touches on the first point of your personal weaknesses. So the skills that you need to develop are going to be different than your coworkers or your peers in your classes. It's each person is strong in certain areas, and each people are need to improve in other areas. And so it's knowing what you need to focus your energy in to really thrive and optimize.
Compare the project with what you started and what you have learned right now. Yeah, I like that point too, because usually like we have two types of people. There are people that they want to go to the next level, next level, next level, but there are people that just want to master what they have. So that's why it's for each person that growth looks so different. So you really want to just really constantly compare yourself with your past self. Cool. All right. Okay. Thank you so much for those participating. All right, some spicy stats. So, but before we talk about spicy stats, the course that we were sort of the hypothetical course we talked about is exactly what work looks like. You get into workforce, you don't have a syllabus, you have to work with people with different communication style and different worlds, and you yourself have to figure out, all right, how can I go to the next level? How can I go to the next level? So instructions are not really being given to you as much as you receive in schools. So that's where we sort of start seeing that gap, that you're like, I have master's degree, I was an A student, I was an honor student, and you sort of feel like, you know what, I can't catch up with my first job. And that was sort of like an example of how different it is when you move away from university and getting into workforce. So a few some spicy stats that you might find it interesting is that living with job insecurity can be more harmful to your health than actually losing it. And just having the thought that, am I able to constantly switch from one job to another? If I don't know, COVID happened and service industry was impacted, can I just quickly change my industry? Or can I just quickly change my role? So if by any chance I'm not able to do that job due to changes in the environment, I can sort of adapt to the another job. So sort of having that confidence in yourself, it actually helps you so much with your own subjective well-being. And that's why most people, they're really harming themselves by just having the thought, what if I lose my job? I won't be able to do anything else. The next thing is people's financial success depends on 85% on soft skills. So you might think, I want you to just look at your sort of your journey in school and just see what percentage of your courses on teaching you soft skills such as communication, leadership, negotiation, problem solving, critical thinking, and what percentage of your courses are on technical skills. And see the sort of the ratio, and then compare it what's actually required in workforce. That in order for you to get into the next level in workforce is that those essential soft skills that help you to build that success that you're dreaming for. Mm-hmm. And lastly, in August of 2018, there were 7.1 million job openings and 6.2 million unemployed people. So why is that? One of the reasons for this, because the skills that employers are looking for, they cannot find it in job market. Because the skills they're looking for is that essential skills, like the skills that we don't really get much in school from it. And that's why sometimes the training we get in schools is not really compatible what workforce requires. And that's why we're not really helping with unemployment rate in that way. And lastly, the most important one that I personally was never exposed to it when I was doing my studying, and we're going to dedicate most of our session today on this, is living your values. And the reason for that, it sounds like a buzzword. It sounds like cliche. You know what? Values, let's just figure out values is those psychological stuff. But this is the most important, I would say, step you can take for yourself and for your life, for your career, to understand your values and to make sure you live your values. And your values are not your parents' values. Your values are not your family cultural values. Your values is your individual values. And whatever decision you're making about your career, you have to use those values to make those decisions, because there are tons of options for you. Which one is right for me? Your value is going to make that decision. So we will make sure we spend good time on helping you to identify your values and making sure you are not suffering from low psychological and physiological well-being in your life as you're growing in your personal and professional life. All right, I'm going to pass it to Leanne to talk about what is fit. What is it that we just say, oh, we have to find the right fit. We have to, it's just, what does that really mean?
Mm-hmm. So as Amin kind of alluded to, fit is and values are definitely this buzzword. But what does that really mean? What does it mean for you? And how is that going to help you navigate the career trajectory that you want to go on? So first, let's get a better understanding of what values are and what your specific values are. So if you have a piece of paper or you want to jot it down on a notepad on your computer, I want you to reflect on the last life choice you made recently. And I want you to think about three main things. Why do you think you made this decision? What were the main factors that contributed to this decision? And what motivated you to make this decision? It doesn't have to be a really, really big life choice, maybe just the first one that comes to mind. We'll give you a couple minutes here, and then I'll ask someone to share. And if you're stuck at all for answering these questions, some other things you could think about is, what did you say to yourself when you were making these decisions? What was something you were thinking about when you made this decision? And that can be a factor that contributed to the choice that you made. All right, I'll just get you guys to do a thumbs up when you're all ready. Awesome. So, do we have a volunteer who would like to share a big life choice that they recently experienced and why they did it and what were some of the motivators for such life choice?
I can start.
Awesome. Thanks, Terrence.
No worries. So, the last life choice I made was I woke up and did like a pretty early morning jog. I don't do this often, but I decided to wake up at 5 a.m. and just go for a morning jog, for like an early morning jog. I think one of the reasons why was, I think for me, in general, just to stay in shape. I think one of the main factors for this is definitely improving upon my endurance, as well as I also want to compete in like marathons and like 5Ks and 10Ks. And one big motivation for me to wake up early, I look at a lot of my peers, and a lot of them, they go on early morning runs, and from what I've seen, it's benefited them. So I figured, why not me? I think just making that challenge to not hit the snooze button and just to sort of convince myself to wake up at 5 and just like go on a run, because I know that it will pay dividends long term.
Awesome. Thanks, Terrence, for sharing. First of all, I want to applaud you for waking up early and going for a run. It does take a lot of effort to do so, so well done. So from this example, you could correct me if this is not really aligned with you personally, but from what I hear is your values here are health. So you value getting that balanced lifestyle and living that healthy life. You also value this continual improvement and also sense of accomplishment. You like to challenge yourself, and you like to push yourself to improve and be the best that you can. Is that correct?
That was 100% correct. Especially with the part regarding definitely continuing to improve. I think the last thing I want to do is just like be satisfied, because I know that as long as I become at least 1% better each and every day, then I know that I'm heading into the right direction.
Awesome. And so in this, you guys can also reflect on the answers that you put down, but in this activity, you can really get a good sense of what matters most to you. What is something that you value? And that is really what values are. It is what matters most to you. And it's those guiding principles to help people make those important decisions. So do I, not as little, but as little as waking up in the morning, do I go for a jog or not? To what is motivating you to go to university? What is motivating you to do the program that you're currently doing? Those are all values that hold dear to you, and that helps guide you in the decisions that you make in everyday life. Samin, could you?
Okay, should I go to the next slide? Okay.
Yes, that would be awesome. Thank you. So yeah, as I mentioned, values are what matters most to you. They are those guiding principles that help you prioritize everything in your life. You can't do everything at once. You can't do everything in a month or a year. So you really have to prioritize which activities, which programs, what associations you want to join based off what values you hold dear and true to yourself. So now speaking to work-specific values, these are some examples of ones that are present in the workplace that you should start considering when thinking about moving into the work environment. The big thing that you want to think about here is what is something that you care about the most? What would upset you if it was violated? Is it delivering quality work? Or is it meeting deadlines or being a great team member? Before assessing your personal fit with a company, you need to become aware of your own personal values. What is something that you stand strongly behind? And what are some things that you're kind of on the fence of? Does that mean that meeting project deadline would take priority over delivering exceptional work? In an ideal world, you would want both. In an ideal world, you would want high quality work and meeting deadline and shelling out a ton of good product. But sometimes when push comes to shove, you have to pick. And it is something that some companies would value a little bit more than others. And so you'd want to make sure that you're in a company that values the same work-specific values as you do. So why is this all important? As Samin kind of alluded to, is values and fit can impact your personal subjective well-being. Bad job fit is one of the primary drivers of employee burnout, which is another factor it's a buzzword that is detrimental to performance and mental and physical health, and it impacts people around you, your family and your friends as well. The negative consequences of being a value clash is long lasting as well. Values are tied deeply to our sense of identity. So these value clashes can be complicated, make you feel weak, compliant and unhappy at work. It can lead to discomfort and disengagement and dissatisfaction in the work that you produce and just in everyday life. Emotional exhaustion, as I alluded to, is this need to almost fit in an environment that may not fit with you. So forcing fit can be exhausting in every day, almost pretending that you're someone that you're not, and that can lead to burnout. Workplace hostility is that clashing of values. Clashing of values can be okay every once in a while, but if you feel like you're always engaging in friction with the environment that you're in, that can lead to a hostile workplace. And then finally, poor work-life balance, where you're in a company who values 80 plus hours of work. And that is something that you like to have a little bit more balance in your life. You like to go out on the weekend, go camping, or you like to go for runs at night. So if you're in a company that values that 80 plus work, then that's going to be taxing on you emotionally and physically over time.
I actually, Leanne, you got me interested in a question that maybe like everyone can reflect here, that have you ever been in a situation in life they're like, I have everything I wanted, like it's perfect, I have the perfect university, I'm acing everything, I'm the president of this community, but you're still not happy, and you're like, you know what, my parents are proud of me, I got all these accomplishments, but there is something in me that, you know what, I'm still not happy, I'm still not satisfied. Have you ever had those moments? Maybe thumbs up if you had. Perfect. I think all of us had those moments, and that's the moment we reflect, like reflect on ourselves. That are we actually living our values? Like someone says, like you work 80 hours per week. Like, is that exhausting? I was like, it's not exhausting if it's aligned with your values, if it feels right. It's actually giving you more energy. If you feel like your energy is being drained doing something, I was like, what? Why is that? This is something everyone dreams to have for like being in this university, being in engineering program of this university, someone everyone's dreaming for. But what is it that I'm not that proud of it? I'm not that satisfied. So, which goes back to that Leanne's point that that's where values play the role. That it's not that what everyone's proud of, it's that what is it that gives that gratification to me, that even if I want to spend 80 hours per week, it gives me energy, not drain me.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, could you just go back to the one slide? We just have someone who got disconnected. So if you guys want to screenshot this is just some ideas of some workplace values to take into consideration. Is this is this company fostering your continual improvement? Are they investing in your continual education? For Terrence, for example, for you, that would be something that you would want to look for in a company. Do they offer certifications or night courses or day courses or anything like that to help almost appease that hunger of wanting to continually improve? Awesome.
Next one.
Yeah, we're good for the next one as well, please. So the next question here. So now you have a good idea of what your personal values are. Now the next question is, what is culture? What is company culture? And how do I assess what a company values and what their culture is? So first, what is culture? So company culture is the normative behavior within a company. It is what is known, the behaviors that are known to be acceptable and unacceptable. And it is systematically created through a company's policies, practices, and procedures. For example, a company can be, culture can be demonstrated in a company's recognition program. For example, what specific behaviors are they encouraging and recognizing? It also can be seen in the presence of flex days or refueling days. It also can be seen in how many continuing education courses they may offer, and even in how they conduct their meetings. The main point here is culture is present in every day. It is the everyday interactions. It's not just the presence of a ping pong table or beer on Fridays. It is the norms of how people interact with each other. So some tips for assessing fit. So many of you guys might be approaching the job market either in the next year or 2 years from now, but some tips for going into those interviews will help equip you for assessing the fit of the company and how it fits with you and your personal values. So the first step here is you want to interview yourself. So similar to the activity that we just did with assessing what matters most to you, you need to think about, before you even go into an interview, what does your ideal workplace look like? What motivates you? What helps you do your best work and your worst? And also, it's good to think about a time that you were extremely productive. What was special about that situation for you? Were you working with others or were you working alone? What is that ideal workspace? The next step that you would want to do is to interview the hiring manager. And it's really interesting because it's so important. You think that you're going in the interview that it's mainly just to see if you're the right fit for the position. But you need to interview them just as much as they need to interview you. You need to make sure that this is the best decision for you and your career path and your work-life balance and your values. There's two really powerful questions that a colleague of mine has used in the past that I think could really help you guys out for getting a good sense of what the company culture is like in the company that you're interviewing for. The first is by asking who the most successful recent hire was and finding out why that person was the most successful. This will give a good sense of the company values and what they deem is successful and as who they recognize as being a high performer. Is it working late hours or is it being a strong team player? So this would be a really, really powerful question. Another one is who did not succeed as a new hire and why? If the traits of the failed person sound a lot like your qualities and values, it most likely means that it's not a great fit for you, for the organization's values don't align with yours. And then finally, the third step is to reflect and assess on the alignment. So you want to review, compare and contrast the interview questions of yourself and also the company interview answers. Then also do some more background research. Can you picture yourself working at this company? Check out their social media, check out their webpage, check out maybe some promotion videos that they've put out there. Those are all huge signs of the company's branding and essentially the values that they're putting out in the world. Can you imagine working in that workspace? Could you be satisfied with the work that you will be doing there? And also, would you have to be doing some big behavioral changes to conform to their values, ones that push you out of your comfort zone a little too much? Once again, it's good to be challenged, but there's a time when you know it's too far beyond, it's too much of a stretch. And a disclaimer here. So I mean, if you go to the, so fit will not always be perfect. So this is a big thing that we want to also explain is it's not always going to be a perfect jigsaw fit. The most important thing that you need to know is know your negotiables and know your non-negotiables, and then approach the situation with an open mind. A neat quote here that I found is cultural fit is the likelihood that someone will reflect and be able to adapt to the core beliefs, attitudes, behaviors that make up your organization. So something that you want to ask yourself is this something that I want to adapt to? Is this something that will help me grow as a person and make me feel fulfilled? Or is this taking me down a pathway that I don't want to go down? So I'm going to hand it back over to Samin here, and we're going to start talking about those transferable skills. And something that in the spicy stat that Samin had earlier about it's 85% hard skills and 15% soft skills, it really, the opposite, 85% soft skills, 15% hard skills. Something that's really interesting is the saying that skill can be taught, but motivation and the willingness to learn is a trait that is often hard to teach. And that is something that is transferable from one job to another. You can learn the specifications to a job, but those baseline transferable skills is what's going to help you thrive in any position that you're in.
Cool. Thank you, Leanne. What questions, concerns do I have in the room about how to assess your fit with the company? Anything that yourself experienced in the past in the interview, but moderators are hard to teach. You're right. Thank you, Nancy. Yes, that is very hard. And usually, like we have been in employers' position, employers hire for soft skills. They're like, we can't teach them the technical skills. We want to hire for soft skills. And those are the ones you want to invest the most. All right. And so no concerns, no questions. Like, have you ever had the experience in the interview that you would like to share with us and sort of evaluate it together?
Actually, yeah, I do want to share something. This happens a lot whenever I get interviewed whenever I do an interview for a job. I think a lot of employers will always like make this like problem solving scenario. They'll like put you in like a hypothetical like problem solving situation, and there are times where I think I do great, and then there are other times where like I think I don't do that great. Yeah, so I think being put in a position to like create or solve like a problem, and they're like putting you on the spot is definitely like really, I think, really pressuring for me. And then I feel like for scenarios like that, I think I have to do like a better job of trying to sort of assess the scenario and like see if there are any solutions to it. So I think from an interview standpoint, I'm not sure if anyone else has had that experience of being slightly overwhelmed of being put on the spot and trying to solve this hypothetical scenario that employers like will pitch to you for the interview. But I figured it's essential because they want to see how you'll fare out.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Terrence, for sharing. Yeah, the hypothetical situation, I think, is a quite common interviewing tactic. And it's an excellent example of how you can't memorize everything. You can't memorize like you can in school, sometimes an equation that you can sub in and help you solve it. And the best way to almost explain it too is the example that Samin did at the beginning of this session of you have this hypothetical situation and it's essentially blank. And how do you get to that goal? What are the steps that you need to take to get to that goal? And it doesn't matter if it's optimizing the supply chain line or I don't know, achieving certain numbers or optimizing engagement in your company. It's all the same steps of how to rewind, break it down the goals, and then what would be your approach to breaking down certain goals and also proactively acquiring information. And so it's almost like this, I see it as like a structure that you can sub in different information as long as you solidify that structure.
And this is a great transition to the next section, which is the transferable skills. So Terrence, what employers are looking for once, as Leanne said, once you have the structure how to solve problems, if it's a physics problems, financial problem, supply chain problem, really you can apply it from one area to the another. And that's really a great example of transferable skills. It's not something that you can just read one book to, it's something that I want to sort of make sure we're all being realistic about any skills and the values and all this stuff we're talking about is not a one-time conversation, it's not a one book to read, and it's not a one session to attend. Just similar, like how to be the best pianist, you need to constantly practice playing the piano. It's really the same thing that if you want to be the good problem solver, you have to practice it on a daily basis to the point that you can apply it from one area to another. And this is a great example of transferable skills, which you can really use it in different areas of life, in different areas of your jobs. Something like we always use as jalapeno, best leaders are actually parents. If you want to be the best leader, read parenting book, because the skills you develop in parenting is really similar to your leadership skills. And that's sort of a transferable skills, that the stuff you're doing as a volunteer, like why employers appreciate a lot of volunteer time. They don't want to see that you work for free. This is not what they're looking for. What they're looking for is that what are those skills you're developing in your personal life that's going to help me in my company to grow. So that's really, those are the skills we're going to discuss together. Okay, so let's go back to our mentee again. And I want you to list out a few transferable skills that you think you have been developing over your university life. management, and that's actually a biggest, the most important skill, because it's just not all about time. It's about being able to say no, being able to set priorities and setting boundaries. So it's a skill that has many sub skills in it. Very good point. Definitely completing 5 courses and a part-time job and taking care of family. It that puts you in the position to learn time management. Leadership. If somebody, whoever put that there, would you be able to elaborate? What do you do right now that helps you to develop leadership skills?
Yep, that was me. I did leadership. So I think the biggest thing for me when it comes to leadership is not only being accountable, but also being equitable towards everyone. So I think what we mentioned about respecting others' opinions, I think that's where leadership kicks in, because at the end of the day, um, you depend on everyone to, whether you're trying to make a profit, whether you're trying to make a meaningful venture succeed. At the end of the day, you have to include everyone into the process. And I think regarding leadership, you have to make sure that everyone's involved. We're all on this. We're all on the same. It's more so like we're all on the same boat, and everyone eats at the dinner table sort of mentality.
Very good point. Yeah, I love that point that we do need others to make sure we get what we want, and we have to learn how to manage them, how to communicate with them, to make sure we get what we are hoping to have. We do need others.
So that's almost like a bit of that like people skills and communication also wrapped up in the leadership as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Research skills, that's definitely a good one. There is another one, being emotionally strong or mental toughness. Whoever has put that, can I hear from you? What do you mean by that? Can you tell me what are the tactics you're doing right now to make sure you develop such skills?
Yeah, it was me who put being emotionally strong. And because we are far from our family as an international students, it's been 2 years. I didn't meet my father, my mother, right? So being emotionally strong is one of the greatest point you have to have in your personality. Because there are like sometimes when you are like, that's it. I don't want anything, that's it. I'm just fed up.
Yeah.
So at that time, you have to give your emotional support to yourself that that's okay. We will work hard and let them in here as well. One day, we will achieve what we are dreaming of. So, like emotional strongness is very, very important in your life. You have to be strong.
Beautifully put. Yeah. And that work ethic, because not everything's going to be gravy. Not everything's going to be perfect. There's going to be ups and downs. And it's really a testament of your character for how you stick through the lows and celebrate the highs, obviously, but it's really for how you get through those lows and really make sure that you produce good work and you are who you are type thing. Awesome.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think all of us can resonate with that. That very, very good point. Should we do one more and then move on? Adaptability. Who put adaptability? I would love to hear from that person. What? Actually, sorry, before we do that, I saw Rahul raise his hand. Rahul, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I wrote mental toughness.
Mm-hmm.
So during before COVID and during COVID also, I used to play cricket and football for professional teams. So there was a lot of mental toughness that was required on the field, and that I could have adapted to my customer service skills as well, where you need a lot of patience to deal with the customers.
I love it. I the parallels from sport to work is so interesting. So like a lot of that teamwork aspect, communication, mental toughness, grit. That's awesome.
Awesome. All right. Leanne, should we do one more, or I think we're running out of time? Maybe I should move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do it then. Okay, so before we address this question, so these are some of the most common transferable skills that we are constantly developing in workforce. So our daily job in the morning is to really teach such skills to people in workforce and students. And really the most important one, like resiliency, as you mentioned, it's the leadership, asking questions. Sometimes we feel like, you know what, asking question, that's common sense, but not really actually being able to listen and ask the right question in the right way is such an important hard skill to develop. But actually, if you want to really make sure you're thriving in workforce, it's a very important skills because people are not going to reward you by providing solutions. They're going to reward you by asking good questions. And that's sort of the difference between school and workforce. Stress management, self-awareness is another huge one, that being able to understand your emotions and know why am I feeling this way, and not try to sort of be very destructive towards yourself by being really positive. That, you know what, there's something concept that we constantly talk about, the positivity toxicity, that sometimes we are being so harsh on ourselves in school, like in at work, that, you know what, I should be tough, I should really make sure I get this through, but not really giving ourselves the compassion to space to this the compassion space to really embrace what's happening, to be aware of ourselves. So, and that's really being the most very, very important in workforce, specifically in leadership positions. And the next one, maybe I want to touch on, because I myself suffered from it a lot, delegation. We were not taught in school how to delegate. You're like, this is your instructions, this is your syllabus, these are how you're going to divide the task in group, go get it done. But in workforce, you were like, I have to think about what task I'm delegating to who, in what way, which sounds very simple, but it's actually a very hard skill to develop. And many people are actually going through a tough time in workforce because they want to do it all, because they don't know how to delegate. All right. So really, what is skill gap? What is that gap that we were talking about really all this 1 hour? Is that really is the difference between the skills that employers are looking for and the training and experience that we get in schools. And that's what skill gap is. That doesn't mean that the training you get in school is useless. That doesn't mean that. What it means, it says, is not enough. It says the training you get in school is perfect, good investment of your time, resources, but you yourself have to make sure you do few sort of your own initiatives to make sure you offer the full package to the workforce. So I feel like I addressed this question somehow. I shouldn't have said that. But you know what? Skill gap exists whether we want it or not. The skills we have right now to make sure we're thriving in career is not enough. And employers are suffering from hiring students that will help them with really their career, with their company's growth. And we do see that, like employers, like, I'm done hiring students. I'm not hiring students anymore. It's just because, you know what, they don't get that skill that they're looking for, right? So who is responsible to bridge that gap? Like, how can we bridge such gap, which is between students, universities, workforce, and employers? So can you go to your mentee again and share your thoughts? Who is responsible to bridge this gap? Internships. So you're saying like having more internships, mostly the employees, so workforce, making sure. So I would love to actually hear from the person who are saying employees. So we got a few points. Can you elaborate your point? How employees or employers, pretty much workforce, responsible for this? What can they do?
Well, I just mostly meant it as in, like, obviously you're responsible for your own skills, but the employer should also give you the chance to fill that gap. Otherwise, it will just be a catch-22, which is like, I feel like that's our issue with students going into workforce. They want 15 years of experience. We were just out of school. And but it's mostly you're responsible for it as the employee, but you should be given that chance.
I see what you mean by employees. Like we ourselves, when we become employee for the company. Yeah, I totally agree. We have, okay, before I elaborate on this, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the company that I work with, they give like managerial training programs, like if they see the potential in you, so then they offer you that. So I really believe that companies can really give you the entry-level jobs, but if you establish that image that you can do it, so those programs by companies, you can really grow up.
Yeah, that's a really good point, which if I want to merge your point with Marianne's, is that we ourselves are responsible for sure. Like we have to be our own hero. However, we want to make sure that we are being seen in workforce and the opportunities are being given to us. That so it's really, so it says that it takes two to tango. I can't do everything I can to sort of shine out, but I want to make sure the opportunity. Very good point. Thanks for sharing those points. Yes, so I think it seems like based on the responses we have been sharing, we all have that realistic image. You know what? I myself have to learn to be how to be my own hero. And that itself is a skill. Like, how can I engage myself in life? How can I engage myself in workforce? Especially like if you're coming from families that everything has been instructed to us. I myself, like my summer was busier than my school time because all the classes were already planned out for me, you know. If we're coming sort of from that environment, it makes it even harder for us to learn how can I engage myself in workforce in my life that is more aligned with my values. And that really, we cannot blame parents, we cannot blame school, we cannot blame workforce. If we are not doing that, we just have to not to blame ourselves. I say we just have to make ourselves responsible. Never blame yourself. That's not healthy. Okay, so really now that you were like, what is career coaching? Why people have like career coaching? I mean, that's simple. You just apply for universities and then you apply for jobs and then you apply for the next promotion. I mean, that sounds simple. Why do people like seek for a coach? But really, it's not that simple. As Leanne said, your career is part of your identity. It's not just going to a job 9 to 5, getting your paycheck. I understand that some of you as a student, you just want to get that job. It's just the excitement is there. You want to graduate very soon and to get it. Trust me, sooner or later, you will graduate and you will get that job. And 3 months in the job, you realize, you know what? I spent so much time, money in school, and this is the job that I was really excited for. And that's when the coach comes in place, that the identity you're developing yourself through your career is actually what you're looking for. I'm sure in your family, in media, you have seen people that they are very successful, but they are depressed, they are going through some serious psychological issues. It's just you're like, how come they're not happy? They have everything they need. It's just because it's not all about just getting the title and getting the paycheck. I know this sounds very exciting at the beginning, but it's beyond that. It's your identity that only you have control over it. And I think something we all can resonate with. We don't really get that opportunity really as a kid, as a student. What is it that I want? What is it that it's unique to my strength? Like how often we really ask such questions from ourselves? Not very often. And this is really when career coach comes in place. That, you know what, sometimes I don't even know where I need to go. You know, I feel like, you know, all I'm exposed to is like doctors, engineers, lawyers. I feel like these are high prestige jobs. It gives me job security. But do you remember the stats we talked about, that job security is not just that financial? If do I have the transferable skills? If by any chance the healthcare industry becomes all automated, do I have enough skills to change my industry, right? Like, so it goes back to those questions that, you know, how do I know what directions I should be going? The directions that are exposed to me is these three options: being an engineer, being a doctor, being a lawyer, because they're high paid job. But is this really what is exposed to me? I don't even know what's out there. I do remember myself when I was in your shoes. I didn't know there is a major like music therapy, and I was like, oh, there is such a thing out there, because I love music, I love therapy. I should explore that further. So I actually took almost a year just to explore what's out there before even try to figure out what's for me.
Mhm. A really good word advice someone once gave me is think about what you're passionate about and think about what you're good at, and find a nice marriage between the two. And that will be something that you excel in, but you're also wanting to wake up every single day and do.
Yeah, exactly. Because sometimes in the interview, we do hear that I'm very passionate about helping people. And then you look at their resume, you look at their life, you're like, they don't really spend much time helping people. So there is this sort of dissonance. That is that really what you're valuing? Because you're not spending your time, your leisure time doing this, right? The next thing is, sometimes we have a plan. We know I'm going to go to med school, and then I'm going to become a physician, and then I'm going to become a specialist in this area. The plan is all figured out, right? But to go from one step to another step, it's not that easy path. Like, what skills do I need to develop to make sure, okay, I get into med school? What steps I need to develop to make sure I'll be able to really become that physician I want? And actually, something interesting that we work with a lot of psychologists, we work with dentists, we work with doctors, that they're expert in what they're doing, but they're like, we are not business people. We don't, like, I have my own clinic, but I don't know how to run it. So that's sort of like, you need that support to see, how can I get from step A to step B?
A lot of times too is you're not aware of the blind spots that you have, which is why they're called blind spots. And so sometimes it is good to have a coaching or advisor or some third party person to kind of reflect on what those blind spots are, so you know how you can improve, so you can thrive in the plan that you currently have. And also, as Samin alluded to, is that as you grow and develop, your plan might change as your values start to change as well. So it is really important to continually check back in with yourself to make sure that this is still the right pathway for you. You should never feel like this is too late. I've already done like 20 years and it's too late. This is what I do. And so I'm just going to chug along through this until I retire. It's never too late to kind of reevaluate and make sure that you are in the position that you want to be in.
Awesome. All right. Thanks everyone for your attention, for your participations. Again, I'm extremely excited for all of you. I really wish I could go back to my stage where you are right now with this experience I have. That would be a wonderful wish to ask for. Unfortunately, we never can go back in life, but we are here to make sure we share our experiences and expertise with all of you to make sure you take the right steps in your career, because I think we underestimate really how important it is and how difficult it is to make the right steps, and no one really can make that decisions but ourselves. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. If you would like just to have a chat to help you with your next steps, we will make sure we share our information with you, and we wish you a really, really good summer for you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for participating and also being so interactive as well. Really appreciate the participation, and it was a pleasure sharing all this information with you, and hope to connect in a later day.
Thanks for participating. All have a great day.
Bye-bye.